Oh, and good evening. It's October 9th, 2025, and welcome to another one of our branches on the vine featuring teachings from the folks at Aleph Beta. I enjoy the connections across Scripture, the idea of putting ourselves in others' shoes, strapping on sandals, and the idea of understanding the characters. Because I'm reminded that these are real people, actual agendas, and here at the Dusty Feet, we often try on sandals for the good and sometimes the not so good. But in this episode from Rabbi Fohrman, we're going to explore the thoughts surrounding prayer. I might add with the context that we tend to have that is this a prayer? Does it resonate with us? Should it even connect with us? Then there's liturgy. It's an interesting topic to discuss, and one's background will most likely have a significant impact on this discussion. Whether it's been part of your church past, or if you're more on the side of, well, what really is liturgy? Prayers, text, read aloud, recited, contemplated. I suspect there's more to ponder here. So here we go with Hannah's prayer with Aleph Beta on the Dusty Feet. Our hope with the Dusty Feet is to foster discussion and help build and support communities. If you are not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. DustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Facebook, at the Dusty Feet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. And 3, we have a Discord channel. The invite link is there below. Be vocal, be written, be loving. And 4, and as always, you are welcome to send an email to bob@thedustyfeet.com. These places, they will be moderated, and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on the Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged. Divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. And before we forget, if you do find these kinds of podcasts useful, please click that subscribe button. Those reminders, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that is when you click that like button, because that is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. So we try on sandals. We try to see the lives of these characters, these real people in Scripture, and in doing so, we can perhaps gain a deeper understanding, or at least an appreciation for what they might have been going through. So with this, it would be helpful to have some context for those unfamiliar with the story of Hannah, right? The mother of Samuel, the prophet. Hannah is the second wife of Elkanah, an Ephraimite, and she was barren. That's not unlike others in Scripture. And also, like others in Scripture, she was very much loved by her husband. She would travel every year for the feasts without a child. And Elkanah's other wife, Peninnah, right? She would taunt her. We hear the phrase in Scripture, bitterly spoken. I'm guessing that's not very caring, maybe bordering on spiteful. But on one of these trips, she goes up to pray. She is so pained she cannot even speak. The hurt is so deep, she could only mouth the words. When Eli, the priest, when he sees her, he thought she was drunk, right? So maybe a word of caution for us. When we're around and we see situations, maybe we're seeing what we think we do, and just not what we think. It's a sidebar, food for thought. So 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 10, right? Hannah was greatly distressed. She prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish. She made a vow, saying, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look upon the affliction, suffering, of your maidservant, and remember, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and a razor shall never touch his head. This is a solemn prayer, right? This is a Nazirite vow. This is not a light thing to be promised, even in desperate and trying times. The depth of context is essential here, and because we know of a not so good yet very famous character in Scripture that did not take this vow seriously from his mother. It was Samson. But the Nazirite vow, right? It's from Numbers chapter 6, right? Starts in verse 2. It says, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man or a woman makes a special vow, namely the vow of a Nazirite, to live as a Nazirite for the Lord, he shall abstain from wine and strong drink. He shall consume no vinegar, whether made from wine or strong drink, nor shall he drink any grape juice or eat any fresh or dried grapes. All the days of his consecration he shall not eat anything that is produced from the grapevine or from the seeds, even to the skin. All the days of his vow of consecration no razor shall pass over his head. He shall be holy until the days are fulfilled for which he lives as a Nazirite for the Lord. He shall let the locks of his hair on his head grow long, and all the days of his consecration he is holy," would be set apart to the Lord. So this is not a foxhole prayer. I mean, this is not a get me out of this, God, give me a child and I'll follow you. She's so serious, she dedicates this child to God. She says, give him to me, I'll have him, but I'll give him back to you because he belongs to you. 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 20 said, "It came about in due time, after Hannah had conceived, that she gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I have asked for him of the Lord." You know, the scripture says God remembered her, right? Hannah had asked not to be forgotten, right? God granted her a child. So Hannah holds up her side of this promise, right? She holds up her side of the vow. Verse 24. "Now, when she had weaned him," that would be Samuel, "she took him up with her and a 3-year-old bull, 1 ephah of flour, a jug of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, although the child was still young. Then they slaughtered the bull and brought the boy to Eli. And she said, 'Pardon me, my lord. As your soul lives, my lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you, praying to the Lord. For this boy I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my request, which I asked of him. So I've also dedicated him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Lord, and you worship the Lord there.'" So this is a special prayer that we're going to be talking about. This is the heart of Hannah. This is the depth of pain, the joy of deliverance. So with that context in place, here's the video now from the rabbi that I want you to listen to. Wait. Well, hold on. I want to put a child's prayer in your head, just to keep in the background, bounce around in there, right? "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." Enjoy the video.
So Hannah has stated a radical idea, that paradoxically it is God's separateness, his transcendence, which is not really at odds with closeness, but is the bridge towards closeness. It's understanding that transcendence and separateness that gives us a ladder to come close to God. What I want to show you is that as radical as that idea sounds, It's actually a foundation of our daily prayers. There is a prayer which we often don't pay that much attention to. Many of us think it's kind of juvenile because when it is sung in synagogue, it's usually the little kid who comes up to the bima and sings it. It's at the end of davening. Maybe you're taking off your talis, schmoozing with your friend, thinking about Kiddush when this song is being sung. But the song which I'm referring to is Adon Olam, and it is anything but a juvenile song. It is majestic, powerful, and soul-stirring. It is Chana's thoughts which animate what this song is really about. Let me take a look at that song with you for just a moment. The song I want to suggest to you has three main parts to it. Whenever you look at biblical poetry, I think to help you not get lost with this whole maze of words, it's helpful to just ask yourself, what are the pieces here and how do the pieces hold together? So here I think is the first major piece of this song. Let's try to give it a title in our minds as we go through this. Adon Olam Asher Malach, the master of the world, the master of the universe, who was king, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, even before any creature in this whole universe was ever created. In other words, God is so majestic that even when he was alone in the universe, the only being that existed in his own lofty realm, in his numinous solitude, there was majesty in that. But he was like a majestic king waiting for a nation. Nothing else existed yet. La'et na'asa b'chefzo kol. That all changed when suddenly there was somethingness out of nothingness. When all came into being according to his will, then his kingship was real. It wasn't just potential anymore. Azai melech shmo nikra. Then he could truly be called king. And now, having talked about a period of time before creation in which God was potentially king, we now fast forward throughout eons of time to the end, to the very end of V'acharei kichlot hakol, and after it's all over, when the final star has collapsed into a fiery supernova, Levado yimloch nora, when there is nothing else anymore, and he is once again alone, he will still be master in his awesome solitude. Hu haya, he was. Hu hoveh, he is. Hu yiyeh, he always will be. B'tifara, in majesty. And this being, this creator, the foundation of it all, who is he? V'hu echad, he is one. V'ein sheni, there is no two. But his oneness is different from the oneness that you and I are talking about. Even his oneness is a mystery. Laham shilo, you can't analogize anything to him. In that sense, he is one. You can't say, God is kind of like X and Y. He's sort of like this. He's sort of like that. He's sort of like nothing. He is ultimately beyond anything we can experience. Lahachbira, one cannot conceivably attach anything to God to become part of him. The notion of parts with reference to God, it is utter futility to think that way. He is what philosophers call a simple unity, a oneness that cannot be divided. We don't experience anything like that in our world. And in this way, too, he is utterly kadosh, utterly different from us. Here is my table. It's one table. If I take an axe to this table, it's two tables. Here is an atom. If I put it in a super-colliding super collider, all of a sudden it is many subatomic particles. Any one we have in this world can potentially be a two. God is a one with no potential to be two. Bli reshit, bli tachlit. He has no beginning, he has no end. V'lo ha'oz v'hamisra. The very concepts of power and sovereignty are owned by this God. He truly is master of the universe. Now stop right here. Imagine that Adon Olam ended here, and we played What's Next? What's next with your emotions? So what do you think of this God? Powerful, alone in solitude, incomprehensible, defining him, analogizing who he is, utterly impossible. What do you think of this God? He's kadosh, separate, utterly different than me. Are you cut off from this God? Couldn't care less about you? Maybe you don't care less about him. A mighty God, yes, but a personal God? Listen to the next words, a turning point, an astounding turning point in the song. The who and this God, which we've just described, with everything about him that's so incomprehensible, Eli, is not just God, he is my God. The Chai Goali, he is my living, dynamic Redeemer. He's there for me when I'm in trouble. Tzur Chevli, he is my rock, there's that word from Chana, my foundation stone, but not just the foundation stone of the universe, my personal foundation stone, Be'et Sarah, when I'm in trouble. Hu Nisi. He is my banner. I hold him aloft in times of triumph. I revel in my association with him humanosly, and in times that are terrible, I find refuge in him. He is there in my triumphs. He is there in my agony. Menas kosi biyom ekra. He is my portion all the time. Whenever I call to him, I find him there for me. That is part 2. And now part 3. Part 3 puts together parts 1 and parts 2 and shows what happens when you bring these two together. Because Adon Olam's point is not just that you can talk about a mighty God, and not just that you can talk about a personal God, but these are one and the same. My personal God is that completely mysterious, astonishing force that's the source of it all. And therefore, every single day, I live my life differently. Here is how. B'yado, in his hand, afkid ruchi, I entrust my soul. Be'et ishan, every night when I go to sleep. Ve'a'ira, and I wake up. I believe the way to read that is with an exclamation mark. Ba'et ishan, semicolon, ve'a'ira, exclamation mark. And lo and behold, God vindicates my trust in him every morning. I wake up and you know what? I have my soul back because he gave it back to me. Every single day, I engage in an incredible act of faith, almost without thinking about it. I willingly go to sleep. The act of going to sleep is an act of letting go. You know that moment. Your head is on your pillow. You're conscious. You're holding on. And slowly you begin to drift off. Do you let yourself drift off? There's lots of reasons for insomnia. Some of it's caffeine, but some of it is existential fear. Can I let myself go? Where is my soul going now? Can I really allow my soul to depart? Where is it going? To that God, the personal God, who is there to receive my soul, the mystery of mysteries. Every morning, God gives me my soul back. It reinforces my ability to go to sleep the next night and the night after that. And now the author of this song makes a jump from sleep, astonishingly, to death. It's as if he's saying, what does this do for me? This ritual I go through night after night of letting go and falling asleep. It gives me the courage to do something else, to really let go when that is demanded of me. When do I really let go? When I face death. When I need to give not just my soul, but my body, everything back. It's all just something I have for a certain amount of time, then I need to give it back to my Creator, that mystery of mysteries. And I need to trust that He'll be there on the other side. So one day, Imruchi, along with my soul, not just will it I entrust to God, but Gaviati, along with that, my body, Adonai Li, my master, is mine, Velo Ira, and I shall not fear. Parts 1, 2, and 3. Part 1, the God who is Kadosh, who is inconceivable, powerful, sovereign, master of all. Part 2, that God is my God. Part 3, how it makes a difference to me every single day. Because that God, the mighty God, is my God. That's why I can go to sleep. That's why I can trust him. You know, if God was just my buddy, I could trust him, but he didn't have any power to help me. How could I ever go to sleep? How could I entrust something like my soul to someone with no power? He must be the master of the universe. He must have power for me to be able to give him my soul in sleep and in death. But if all God was powerful, numinous, alone, mysterious, but I was not connected to him, I was not close to him, he was not my God, then I could not give my soul to him either. It's the juncture of 1 and 2 together that allows for 3, that allows for me every day to act in faith, to give my soul to the loving God who is full of power and mystery, and ultimately to give myself back in death. In a deep kind of way, what the singer of this song is really saying is that parts 1 and 2 are not really 2 parts. They're the same part. V'hu Eli, that God, the mystery of mysteries God, that God is my personal God. His being kadosh, his being separate, the meaning of that is he is my source. And because he is my source, because I come from him, then he can be, then he is, and of course he is my personal God. He is my banner, he is my refuge, he is all that because he is my source. How could he be otherwise? It is in that he is separate, that his great mystery lies. And it is in that his great closeness to me lies too. And that's why I can go to sleep. That's why I can die. So here we are now, facing Rosh Hashanah, facing Yom Kippur, facing these days of awe. We're going to spend most of our time in synagogue and shul, and we're going to spend most of our time in prayer. The Machzor forces us to confront the majesty of God, but let us not be intimidated of this majesty and relinquish the task before us. Let us understand that the majesty of God is not something that should frighten us so much as it should beckon us to draw near. The majesty of God and his nearness to us are one and the same thing. Kedusha, holiness, is what closeness with God is made out of. This Rosh Hashanah, this Yom Kippur, whenever you find your mind wandering, ground yourself in the notion of what that holiness really means. God is more real than the chair you're sitting on, than the floor you're standing on. God is more real than anything you know, and as your source understands you intimately, your source understands you, understands who you really are. Hannah poured her soul out to God, understanding that he is the source, understanding that there was nothing to hide, that she could bring all of her emotions, even the not pretty ones, into prayer. That is the definition of prayer. This Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you are being called upon to pray. Be real, be close. The God of holiness can ask nothing more from you than that.
So what'd you think? At times I've had the privilege of reading or listening to various speakers, and it's always interesting to hear or read how each of them communicate. The words they use, the expressions they share, the stories that they have, and sometimes, not all the time, you'll get some background to a story or an analogy that they're trying to share. And if you know who they are, then maybe sometimes you get more of their story sharing down the road, but you'll know it comes from their past and where you've been before because they've shared it before. An example might be, say, Tim Mackey when he talks about Skate Church, right? And you hear about him talk about it later on. You've heard this testimony. You get a deeper understanding of the story as it continues in his storytelling. Because of this prayer of Hannah's, it's not just steeped in Hannah's own story. I mean, we're quite a ways along in the journey from Genesis to here. I mean, we've had many things go on. We've had many barren wives who have inquired of God, and they were granted children. So she's not the first there. We have several women who have been thankful to God and have shared their joy in the experience they're having. But Hannah's articulation, I think it's different. I think it's almost like it's a combination of the barren women and, say, something like Miriam's song from the crossing of the Sea of Reeds. I mean, Hannah's has seemed to realize the immense scale of this event to her, how vital God is to her. And if she were alive today, it would be kind of exciting for the opportunity to listen to her speak or listen to a book of hers, because her prayer is something to take note of. But the real thing I'd like you to do is really talk amongst yourselves. Listen to what she's saying, the things she's mentioning: redemption, rock, my strength. These have been part of the foundation of God for so long now. It's not a new thing. It's not just a post-Jesus thing. And then maybe to add another little context to the mix. We really don't get much of it, but something to think about. As soon as she does this, as soon as she finishes this prayer, she gives the child to Eli. She speaks this prayer. She gives the boy. She's honoring her promise to God. She's honoring her vow to God for this boy. She may not know it. He's going to become the Samuel, right? The prophet and judge. Little does she know, her little boy will eventually anoint the man that we come to know as David, King David, that man after God's own heart. Liturgy, prayer, songs, prayer books. So I just want you to ponder it, think about it. What does it make you think about? Talk amongst yourselves. I love these kind of things that inspire us, that motivate us, that remind us of our response when we've been granted a response from God. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And if I wake, well, that gives us something to think about. So, thanks with us tonight, courtesy of Rabbi Fohrman and the folks at Aleph Beta, with another Branches on the Vine on the Dusty Feet.